Hey, what's going on? And welcome to the Men's Room. I'm your host, Mark Sparks, and today's topic, we're going to be looking at interpersonal relationships and really how to build positive ones. Today I have author with me, Geri Greco. Gary, how are you today?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Welcome to the show, man.
It's a pleasure.
So tell me a little bit about your book. What's the name of the book? What's the title?
The book is called Seduction Formulas, and it's a somewhat autobiographical guide through the journey that I went through in developing my personality to embrace not only seduction but also life skills. And it's written in a series of formulas that is intended for the reader to apply to their own life, regardless of their own background or cultural. I grew up in the southeastern United States, so I was coming from the Bible Belt, basically, like very moral, Puritan, Puritan kind of society. I didn't really learn the things that I needed to about how to be successful in relationships and interpersonal communication. Sort of a broken home type of setting, and pretty much my only thought growing up was just, I've got to do something about getting this part of my life together.
Let's talk about the actual journey. So you step out and you realize, okay, hey, there's something more to the relationships.
I had several experiences that really marked me in terms of my own development. About a month before my 23rd birthday, I was 22, 28 now, so still a fairly young guy, I was hit by a car.
Which is no
I
good.
shattered every single one of my front teeth. And it was devastating because I was thinking, well, I'm never going to be attractive again. I still haven't found my soulmate. And, I've just signed myself away to a lifetime of loneliness. And that was one of the self-limiting beliefs that I had to get away from, is that, I don't have to be I don't have to be a Brad Pitt, look-alike to go out there and be able to attract women. And I think from what I've seen of the community, it's the most successful guys that are the ones that put the effort into it. There's no telling how many people that I know that are successful. They have that rock star type of persona, and they can walk into any sort of social situation and they still don't know how to deal with people. They get nervous when it comes to they could have a woman come right up to them and essentially communicate with their body language, everything they're expressing. I'd like to have sex with you, and they don't know how to handle that. So it's more than just good looks, and that was what I had. That's what I was faced with overcoming, was after the accident.
I come down to trying to go, hey, if he can do it, I can do it, you can do it. And it's like, how did you find yourself going from, not having your teeth to going to being able to go into situations and be comfortable?
The whole thesis is that people don't act necessarily on logic, they act on impulse. People can do very irrational things just because they feel some sort of emotional impulse.
Right.
Part of being able to influence people is just having confidence and strength within. I'll give you a couple of examples of that.
Please.
Myself being an artist, with my involvement in the community, some community buddies of mine, we used to go to clubs and things like that. And I'll just bring my sketch pad. This is very off the wall, but I bring the sketch pad. I'm sketching people dancing, and I think my record is something like 50 phone numbers and email addresses, and
that's a hell of a night, man.
That was a hell of a. I would say that was like that was kind of a record, but I can do that particular routine, and I think the minimal is 3 or 4, that I'm going to walk out with within the span of 30 minutes, depending if I'm there for an hour or 2 hours or whatever.
Right.
I'm just being myself. If you're not an artist, if this isn't who you are, I don't recommend going to a club and trying this, but because this is who I am, that's what I'm communicating. I sit down and I sketch people dancing, and because I have that strong personality, it draws other people into my own reality. it's just I'm being who I am. I'm not going in there and I'm not being a clown. I'm not talking to every woman that I see. I'm coming from a place of who I am and expressing myself, and that's what's attractive. That's what draws people in, is that strong inner belief that I don't necessarily, believe that what people think of me is affecting this. Is right here.
Right. Okay.
I was actually amazed when it worked, because I was so frustrated with trying everything else that I went into a club one night with a friend of mine. I threw my hands up, and he said, "You know what? I'm just going to sketch tonight." And before I knew it, I had girls coming over and asking me, "You know what? You're an artist. Can you send me your website? I would really, can you please email me, because I would really like to find out more about, or why are you doing this? That's so awesome."
Right.
And just coming from my own reality.
Mm-hmm.
Huge. There was another situation where I went to a birthday party, and a couple of my girlfriends thought it would be cute to dress me up in a sequin skirt. And I thought, well, okay, I know who I am. I'm confident with who I am.
Right.
So I go to this party, and I'm dressed up in a sequin skirt and just walking around as if it were the most natural thing in the world.
Right.
And, because I had that strong inner belief, I was able to meet a very lovely lady that night, at the party, and took it from there. But I think my previous self, or take anybody else and put them in that situation, they're going to be like hiding in the corner, like, oh my God, I have a sequin skirt on,
Right.
I can't talk to anybody.
Right.
But you can.
You said the old you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
But the new you can. Like, how did you move to that?
I think it was more or less step by step. I think it came with the strong inner conviction. Mm-hmm. But then I realized that wasn't quite enough. I took a look at myself, and really what I realized what it comes down to is being able to show congruence. And so in psychology, there's about 3 people per every person. There's the person that you see yourself as.
Right.
There's the person that you describe your reality when you have a conversation. How you describe your reality, that's another part of who you are. Mm-hmm. And the other part of that is just how you carry yourself. I think of these almost like three different people within each person, because they're pretty much governed by different parts of the brain, even
right.
that sometimes can work independently and quite contradictory of one another.
Absolutely.
Like so, body language, your self-image, and the way that you present yourself verbally, your presentation.
Right.
Like, how many times do you see people that they're very confident in the way that they express themselves, but they have really poor body language? You have a hard time trusting them, or
right.
Believing that they're coming from that solid place within.
Right.
Just because what they're communicating with body language is quite contradictory to the words that they're using to
right.
describe their reality.
That makes sense. I've seen that.
The other part of it is just visualization, your self-image. If you wake up every day and you mentally rehearse, see a picture in your mind. This is another tool that you can do. See a picture in your mind of everything you want to accomplish that day. See yourself accomplishing that, and in a way, you're programming it in for it to happen. Mm-hmm. The mind is a very complicated thing that way. You can program in things without too much effort, and sometimes without even really knowing. So if you can know, just program it in and be that person that you want to become. But in terms of building attraction and how that relates back to just some intrapersonal tools that you use, there's a few elements that I've learned to use. One is just to get outside of this and think outside of the box. I guess it's maybe the iPod generation. I don't know what it is, but too many people are kind of plugged in and tuned out, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's being able to just show understanding.
Mm-hmm. Particularly when you're conversation.
Exactly. Yeah. Being able to demonstrate that you understand where other people are coming from.
Right.
That's an incredibly useful tool. Mm-hmm. So it's not all about me, myself, and Irene. I mean, it's a bizarre thing that studying piano can go back to seduction. But I had a piano teacher that was taught me this exercise where essentially, if you're going to play the piano, raise your shoulders up and then let them go. Just let your arms hang naturally. And just let them fall, because it's the weight of your arm that's going to create the notes, press down the notes.
Right. So
I began to make observations about there's so many people that they're so stressed out, and they're so their energy is so drawn inward, like they're so almost like they're kind of compressed,
Yeah.
that they have a hard time just relaxing. Mm-hmm. So I noticed that the more and more that I relaxed around other people, the more receptive they were to me.
Really?
Yeah. I would recommend before you go out, maybe just meditate and breathe deeply for 10 minutes. Do something that you enjoy, whatever it may be. Some people like to listen to music to feel like they get pumped up to, just to boost your energy.
Sure.
The other tactic might be to just start a conversation with maybe a cashier or something. Just get the marbles out.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, just get the marbles
open
out.
That bag up and let them roll.
Bag up. Let them roll.
Yeah, I like that.
Our art openings are wonderful to meet like-minded people if you're into the arts.
Right.
If you have a local venue where you have a local band with maybe even a small following, it's a great place to go and chat people up. I mean, it could be. People are, all different. They're all interested in a variety of things. So for some people, it might be just going to the gym, or taking a yoga class.
Right.
Of course, you don't want to be that guy that goes to that just to
be that guy.
To be that guy.
I think that's big to talk about.
Well, I think a huge part of it is just letting go of the outcome, and so that women sense that you don't have some sort of agenda necessarily. You're an interesting girl. I really enjoyed talking with you. How can we keep in touch? It's not necessarily pushy. It's a little bit of the pull back and kind of create your own space and draw them into that.
Right.
The basic seduction formula. I sort of had this epiphany when I realized that a friend of mine he was with his coworker on a business trip. They sat down at a restaurant and they started, this is the story that I got anyways. So they started talking about their relationships, and one thing led to another, and they wound up having an affair while they were on this business, the excuse to let it happen, the business trip.
Right, it just happens.
And I realized that a vast majority of seduction is going to start out like this. After your initial opener or what have you, strike up a conversation about men and women in general. And I know this is a little bit counterintuitive. You have to make sure that you're not telling the woman some sob story. I'm not saying that, but talk about men and women in general, and in a way that shows that you are experienced. You can demonstrate that you have some sense of social proof, on your past experiences, and then talk a little bit about evolve the conversation into talking about a little bit about some of your own experiences and a little bit of her own experiences, because it creates that loop of understanding.
Right. So you're talking about like old relationships type thing.
Sure. Like I said, it's a little bit counterintuitive.
Very much so.
But this is what has worked that I've seen in a lot of instances, and even a lot of amateur instances. Where people haven't studied seduction, and lo and behold, I see them getting together. This is how it starts: is with these kind of chats. And what you're essentially doing is creating a place in the imagination where the woman imagines that she could potentially have a relationship with you as well.
Okay.
That's the only goal through that process, is to create a place in the imagination where she realizes that she has the potential to have a relationship with you. You have to do it in such a way where you're attaching positive values to yourself at the time. So this is another specific technique that is kind of like a warp drive of that scenario, if you will. This takes it and puts that process in fast forward.
Okay.
I use a technique. I've been enjoying success with the technique that I call you and me statements. And it basically works like this. Anytime that you can use a sentence with the words you and me, especially if you're using modifier words like fascinated, what you're doing is you're creating a strong subcontext to the conversation where you're taking all those positive values and you're attaching it to yourself. So it could go something like this. I'm in the bookstore. I happen to see a lovely young lady that I would like to talk to.
Right.
She happens to be in a particular section of the bookstore, maybe even dating or in relationships, and I might say something like this, are you as fascinated with dating and relationships as I am? You, me, fascinated. On a subcontext, you're essentially communicated on a subconscious level, you're fascinated with me. And it can be that easy. It's just a matter of taking those positive emotions and connecting them with yourself so that she associates those positive emotions with you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost,
Yeah.
almost to be like, to become that something that perhaps maybe even she's missing in her own life, I think conversation these days, it's kind of a lost art.
Yes.
So in terms of attaching meaning, I know guys are terrible about this. Like the typical guy conversation, I saw this guy talking to this girl on the transit recently, and he's essentially saying, well, I go to the gym, I work out, I did the weights at the gym, and it's data.
Because men are very logical.
They're very logical.
So we give logical.
Yeah, we're programmed to for problem-solving skills.
Right.
And one thing that we're missing that women use a lot is being able to attach meaning and value to our actions. If you've just met a woman and you say, well, look, I think you're a very classy and a sociable person. You've attached value to her, and you've sort of set the bar for her to live up to, and so of course she's not going to think any lower of that because you've set some expectations, you've set some values.
Right.
There's a lot of instances where you could say, what would be really, really incredible right now is just I'm so in the mood to snuggle. I heard of this crazy thing that people do where they go to cuddle parties, where they essentially go and cuddle with random strangers just because they feel lonely, and so that they can fulfill, at least on some level, for that human contact. People need contact. Do you ever feel that way? Of course. They're all of a sudden they're imagining snuggling with you,
right?
Because you went from that process of talking about something kind of ambiguous and moved into a very specific reality for just the two of you.
Mm-hmm. I guess, we talk about inner strength, you talk about this whole inner game thing, and one of the things that I kind of really like about your concept and where you're coming from is the fact that you don't talk about seduction exclusively. Speak on that.
It's not all just about getting laid, basically. Of course, there are techniques and strategies that you can learn to get laid, and I would recommend practicing a few of those just for the sake of it. But
right.
If you don't have that strong, if it's not you, why become that person? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think that seduction is more about how to take those tactics, philosophies, if you will, and bring them into your own reality. Let it become a part of who you are, integrated into your life, to your social circle, so you're not like, the player, playboy type that becomes their reality instead.
Well, Geri, man, it was a pleasure having you on the show.
Enjoyed it.
Definitely appreciate some of the golden tidbits that you've handed us, and make sure you check them out on the web. Thanks a lot. Take care, my man.
Thank you.
All right, guys, let's take a look at our 5 takeaway points from Geri. Point number 1, the most successful guys in the game aren't necessarily the best looking ones. They're the ones that put in the most effort. Point number 2, people don't act on logic. They act on impulse and emotions. If you want to influence someone, you have to have strong inner convictions to channel their feelings towards your desired outcome. Point number 3, all seduction happens under some sort of pretense. You have to have an excuse to let it happen. Point number 4, help build attraction by talking about men and women in a general way that shows her your experience in social dynamics. Speak about your past experiences and have an understanding for hers. Point number 5, attach positive feelings to yourself so you can create an image for her where she can imagine the two of you having a positive relationship. You can do this by using you and me statements to build a powerful emotional connection. And remember, there's no such thing as failures, only opportunities to learn. And in life, class is always in session. I'm Mark Sparks. We'll see you next time in the men's group.